Then I came across your post, 10 days, 11 days later, and I was like, this is exactly what we need more of. So I don't usually share content like this, but I just kind of want to like read through it really quick. Is that okay with
Absolutely.
you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And if there's something you want to elaborate on, just jump in.
Okay.
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 Okay. So to recap to everyone, this is the post that connected me to following Amber on social media, integrative trauma therapist, link below. I encourage you to follow. So to recap again, if America came to me for counseling, here's what I would say. Think of the right and the left as a couple on my couch, both desperate to be heard, both convinced the other is the problem. Both quick to anger, both feeling absolutely hopeless, both overwhelmed with fear and blame. Here's the truth. They can't hear each other right now because both are stuck in survival mode. When you're triggered, your nervous system shuts off access to your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that allows you to listen, to understand, and to stay open. Instead, survival mode flips the switch to fight or flight. Your walls go up, defenses flare, every word feels like an attack. Sounds so familiar to me, everyone in their politics these days. That's my commentary. And let's be real. News outlets, politicians, and social media platforms fuel this cycle. They benefit when we're divided. They profit when we're consumed with fear and filled with doom. And it's important to acknowledge that what is happening in our country right now does make us all very unsafe regardless of side. Yet in order to bring significant change, we have to anchor ourselves in safety. That is the paradox. We cannot control the world's chaos, but we can ask, how do we get ourselves safe enough? Safe enough to notice what still connects us, safe enough to remember we do share beliefs. This week, every client I saw, no matter their politics, was deeply disturbed by the Charlie Kirk incident. Everyone I know is heartbroken about Gaza. Everyone I know is devastated by the news of more children being murdered by school shootings. We have more overlap than we think, but we'll never see it if we stay trapped in fear, addicted to outrage, and caught in our echo chamber algorithms. If America was my client, I'd tell them, your real enemy isn't each other. It's the systems that divide you, dysregulated, and blind to your shared humanity. I have like goosebumps again. Every time I've read it a few times, and then I read it again today to remind myself and get prepared. And you put that so elegantly. Um, how did you get this on paper, especially when you yourself were feeling so dysregulated? Because I think everybody needs to hear this, and I think most people should be able to relate to it, but we'll talk about the comments in just a second here.
Yeah. Well, like my process with creating most of my content is just kind of like putting it out. Like, so I'll just start on Canva, right? Like, and I'll be like typing in
Mm,
what I'm thinking. But like each piece is really crucial. And even when you read through that, right? Like as you were reading it, you said you started feeling goosebumps. And as you were reading it out loud, like I haven't read it, I kind of glanced at it before because I'm like, what am I going to touch base with Nick on about this
yeah.
post? But like when you read it out loud, I was kind of like, I noticed this safety kind of like coming into my body. Like I kind of noticed that there was this, and I don't know how it made you feel, but like maybe it, and I hope it did bring safety like to some people. Like maybe some people felt for a minute like maybe there is stuff that connects me. And so that is kind of my process. And I usually don't share on Instagram what I'm going through, something like when I am going through something at that moment, because it is very vulnerable, and it's just for my own boundaries. I don't like to do it. And this post is a good example as to why, because everybody does have their feelings about it. And it is such a very divisive thing that's happening in our country right now. I didn't expect it to be as controversial as it actually turned out to be. But I just recognized that these systems that are keeping us divided. And I've felt it. You said 2016. Yes, I do believe that it started around there. But I'll also just say like COVID was really like a breaking point as well. And we have continued to be traumatized as a nation. Right. And when we are traumatized, what we know about a trauma response is it's like a very extreme response. And so these responses have continued to grow and grow and continue to divide us more and more and more, to where what you had said, like bloodthirsty, like there is this lack of seeing the other as human.
Mm-hmm.
And when, something that like with this post, prior to this post, um the lieutenant governor here in Indiana, he's very religious. And I had come across something he had posted about anybody who's on the left is a demon. This is war, right? And so seeing a lot of
Yeah.
these radical things come out, just like calling somebody a demon, for instance, right? It kind of goes back to like the narcissist thing. Like there's no winning against that. You're taking the humanity out of another person. When you call them a demon, there's nothing I can say that's going to help you feel safe if you're like, you're a demon. So anything you say is evil, right? And I see this happening in a lot of different realms. And especially in the algorithms, especially in the news, and now even in people who are in office, like who are supposed to be representing the entirety of our nation, the entirety of our state, not just the right, not just the left, right? And to publicly condemn a whole group of people, it's extremely scary. And so I wanted to think of how can I anchored myself first in safety. Like I said, I listened to something that brought safety back to me. And that was a sermon from my own church that I felt like had a similar message to this and really like gave me hope. And I was like thinking, what would I do as a therapist? How can I do this? How can I show up differently than how everybody else is showing up? Because I do follow a lot of people on the left that are left leaning. And sometimes it is really aggressive and it is really, and I'm like, this is kind of
It's
taking
both
me.
sides.
Oh, it
Yeah.
totally is.
The
Yeah.
left is like, you're a bunch of fascists, or what? This was the one, like Hillary Clinton in 2016, Donald Trump in his basket of deplorables. I remember that because I was like, first of all, how ignorant of you to refer to half of the country as deplorables. And by the way, like I said, I'm a left hippie, but like my family is conservative and they're not deplorables. My friends that are conservative are not deplorables.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like that kind of language, like you're saying these extremes, or the right, when it's the demons, it's the radical left, it's like the radical left and the radical right probably all want to live a life where they're not living paycheck to paycheck and risking wondering where their next meal's coming from. Maybe I bet they all want to take a vacation sometimes, and I would imagine that they want the cost of groceries to go down. I would imagine they'd like to own a house. I would imagine that they'd
Goodness.
like to have a safe place for their kids.
Yeah.
And it's
Everybody
like,
wants
we
those
can't even
things.
talk about that.
And we can't
Yeah.
talk about it. Like, we're not even talking about the issues anymore, right? Like, we're just spewing hate onto each other. And so it's like, that's where the nervous system does come into play. Cause it's like, we're really we are acting as puppets, and they're like the
Pulling the
people that are,
strings.
yeah, exactly, that are above are pulling the strings, and it's benefiting them. Like, it's not benefiting us. It's not benefiting us,
No.
left or right, at
And
all.
how is hating your neighbor, and I keep saying neighbor on purpose, or your radical left neighbor or your radical right neighbor and everyone in between, like, how is it helping you to hate them just because they believe something different than you? And I'm not saying, like, I don't want any of like the school shootings. It's like they're a dime a dozen, which is like disgusting. And you know what's interesting is, what do you hear from the left? We need to ban guns. What do you hear from the right? We have a mental health crisis. I have an idea. Why don't we ban guns and address the mental health crisis, or address the mental health crisis and then see if the gun stuff changes? Or yeah, like, but what is the core value there? We all want to stop the school shootings. So why don't we talk reasonably with each other about ways we can do that, and let's debate, because that's how this country is supposed to be.
Yeah,
We all want the school shootings to stop.
and so many of us feel so passionately about that, and what comes in the way, right? Because it's not so much about banning guns, it's or even like gun, like most people on the left, like, or a lot of people on the left have guns. Like, they're fine
Mm-hmm.
with guns. A lot of people on the right aren't like, we just want to have our guns and just like be throwing them out and like,
But
you know
those
what I
are the
mean?
stereotypes they make us think.
Exactly. Like, we're just trying to be reasonable. I want to like say reasonable fucking people, right? Like, that's all we're trying to be. That's all we're trying to be. But like, it's the extremes, and it is a social media thing. It is an algorithm thing, and it is a news thing. And what are all of those like systems controlled by, right? Like, billionaires, and they're profiting. They are profiting.
Thank you for listening to this clip from the full episode of Eyes Wide Open. Please like and subscribe for daily clips and new episodes that drop every Tuesday. I appreciate you.